There is no way he just said this. His head coach, Jim Montgomery, has spoken out after the horrible loss against the Carolina Hurricanes. I want to be talking about what he says because he has a lot of Bruins fans asking many questions about the future of him with this team. We're going to be talking about all of this as well. Some evidence from an Athletic article that we may be hinting at a departure with Jim Montgomery. I'm going to be talking about all of this here in this video. Before we get into it, though, we know some 70% of you guys watching right now are not subscribed to the channel. We're nearly at 5K, and if we could hit that, that would mean the world to me. But without any further ado, we need to get into this whole topic because this is absolutely ridiculous. What we're looking at right now with Jim Montgomery is unbelievable. He's getting ahead of himself, frankly, and what we're seeing is some very, very questionable quotes that he's bringing out and saying that the future of this team is in good hands. And I need to talk about this because I don't see where he's coming from, and I'm going to pull up the quote straight away before we get into any of our screenshots, and this is what he had to say. We had a lot of success in the last 2 years. We were in first place in the league at Thanksgiving the last 2 years. We never achieved anything we wanted to. Right now, we're not happy. Nobody's happy with what's going on, but we will get out of it, and we will be better, and hopefully it creates a better result come playoff time. Now, I don't know if Jim Montgomery was watching the same game that I was watching last night against the Carolina Hurricanes, but with this team, there is no hope of the playoffs. With the way we played, there is no chance that this Bruins team will even sniff the playoffs or come close when it comes playoff time, according to Jim Montgomery. And I'm going to pull up our stats card, looking at what we had, and as you can see, not one person on this team had any bit of hope of this game. You know, there were some players who didn't play as bad as other, but nobody actually played good. Jeremy Swayman got chased from the net after 57 seconds, scoring 3 goals against at the end of the first period. And Joonas Korpisalo coming into this game, playing a bit better, but still not by much. Nobody on this team had a game that will be any bit hopeful for a playoff run. And I don't know what Jim Montgomery's doing. I know he's trying to be optimistic and everything, and he is working with what he got. I gotta give him that. He's been trying to create any bit of line change that will at least spark a bit of hope or a bit of excitement or energy for this Bruins team, but that has been very, very tough with no moves being made at all this season, except for sending Riley Tufte down, which we all would have thought would have been a corresponding move for Tyler Johnson, but ultimately, it's not what we've been seeing so far. So I understand what Jim Montgomery's doing. I understand what he's trying to say, but still, there would be a better way to put this than saying that the Bruins will be hopeful come playoff time, and I really don't know what he had to really bring into mind with that. And looking at what we have as well from David Pastrnak, he's also spoken about this in the same discussion as Jim Montgomery, and this is what he had to say about the game. We just weren't good enough 5-on-5 at all. They were all over us. We have to be better. David Pastrnak, one of the guys as well on this team who's been very, very disappointing this far. One of the best players on the team, apart from the fourth line, which is still saying something, and this is not the David Pastrnak that we know that we want to see. We're still waiting for an actual breakout from him, a breakout from the team, but with what we've seen this game, I see that coming at no point this season. But looking at as well what we have, I have a few tweets and screenshots here from the Bruins fandom and Bruins articles and Bruins writers during this whole game, and this one's come from Michael Sullivan saying, why is Tyler Johnson not signed yet? If Johnson isn't your answer, then you at least have to give Lysell a shot. I mean, what in the world do you have to lose? And I completely agree with this, and I went over this on last night's stream as well, immediately post-game. A lot of people's reaction were the exact same thing. If you're not going to make a move, if Tyler Johnson is not going to be on this team, why not call up someone from the AHL? Whether that is or is not Fabian Lysell, you still have Georgi Merkulov, you have John Farinacci, you have Riley Duran, you have Trevor Kunter, so many players that could at least just play a game here or there to see if that creates some energy. We've seen that this team, too big, too slow, not using their body when they're the size they are. It makes no sense, and we've been getting beat by so many fast teams, so many skilled teams. Why not give a speedy player of our own a try? It will not hurt at this point. It literally cannot get worse than this result that we've seen last night. So, as I'm sure you know, many, many people are kind of calling for the removal of Jim Montgomery, the change of the lineup in some way, and that will be coming. And I will get into that screenshot a bit later, that quote from Fluto Shinzawa on The Athletic about what we may see coming forward with Jim Montgomery. But I do have another quote here from Jim Montgomery, and this is what he has to say. We've got to learn from tonight's game. We can learn from them, but most importantly, we've got to be predictable to each other. This one comes from Nesson post-game. Still, another questionable quote by Jim Montgomery. I know what he means. You have to be predictable. You have to know what your teammates are doing to get that chemistry, to get a bit of a gel going between the lines, but that's quite impossible when you have a different line every period. You can't change the lines every single period if you want to find a bit of success, if you want to be predictable to each other. It simply won't work. And I do understand. Jim Montgomery is doing whatever he can, but still, at this point, it's getting pretty ridiculous about what he's saying, and it really seems to be making no sense. And he's really just kind of recycling the same quotes he has been over the past couple days, couple games, and nothing new is what we've seen come from Jim Montgomery, except the lines, and that is just getting worse. But still, going on and continuing with their screenshots here, this one's another big reason as to why this team is finding no success. The first tweet here, going, this is the third time the Bruins have given up 3 power play goals in a single game this season. 3 power play goals in a single game. That's quite ridiculous looking at it this way, but putting it into consideration what Ty Anderson had to say here, for additional context, they've now done this 3 times in 11 games this season. They've allowed 3 power play goals against in a single game just 3 times in the previous 437 games. That is an outstanding difference from what we have seen in the past, and I don't know exactly what the math is on that, but over the past few seasons, that is definitely a major difference, and one that is not in any way what the Bruins wanted to see, and just goes to show what we've been seeing this past season, this season, compared to the past decade plus, is completely different from what Bruins fans know and what Bruins fans are used to. And going on and continuing with this as well, Michael Sullivan had this one to say, and this is a pretty different 50-50 opinion I've seen from most people, but is blowing it up part of an overreaction? You have your first round pick, Morgan Geekie, Trent Frederic, Brad Marchand, they're all upcoming free agents. Can't see Geekie here long term. Trent Frederic is 50-50, and you have a top 10 pick. You haven't had a top 10 pick, in a very long time. Do you swallow the pill? And I want to know what you guys have to think about this. What do you think about this? And obviously, it's still very early in the season, and there is time to turn it around. We've seen a worse start from the Edmonton Oilers last season, and ultimately we saw where they ended up last season at the Stanley Cup Finals. Not the result they wanted, but still, getting to that point just goes to show how much you can turn it around. So I don't think this is it yet. I'm not counting it out, however, but this is right now not the option. But this is something that I think this team should keep in mind, that your job is not safe on this team if you don't play better, if you don't get back to the position you want to be. We know that the Bruins should be much better than this, and they have not been yet. But looking at what the future of Jim Montgomery holds, there is another screenshot here from The Athletic that we're going to have to cover. And it's a pretty big hint at what we can see from Jim Montgomery's upcoming games and what that will mean for the rest of his term as Bruins head coach. The Bruins are scheduled to practice Friday at Flyers Training Center on the Friday. They will play Philadelphia on Saturday, then host Seattle on Sunday. Pending results may dictate how management proceeds with Jim Montgomery. We know he's in the final year of his deal. We know there has been extension talks according to Don Sweeney, but nothing has progressed further than that. That was revealed at the beginning of the season, the preseason, when we were discussing the Jeremy Swayman contract as well. Now, does this change it? Absolutely. The way that the Bruins have been performing early on this season has certainly changed what they're looking at right now with the Jim Montgomery contract, but he may not even see the playoffs, is what the point of this being is, according to the quote, or well, in association with the quote he had about this game, that they will be hopefully better come playoff time, especially with the results they're having now. I just don't understand how Jim Montgomery expects this team to make the playoffs with his coaching at this point. And I understand that he has worked with what he's gotten, but things have not gone his way, and his style of coaching seems to be a point where the Bruins are not enthusiastic with it. So a lot of stuff to consider here going forward, and especially these 2 weekend games, the Saturday and Sunday, first back-to-back of the season. We're going to see a very, very big a future point of the season, I guess we could say here, and a lot of impact on what we will see for the remainder of it. So let me know what you think. What do you think we're going to do? Are we seeing a rebuild? Are we going to see Jim Montgomery's career with the Boston Bruins over? There is so much discussed, and especially over these next 2 weekend games, there's a lot to think about going forward. So let me know what you think about all of this news. A lot of stuff still to cover, and I will be having all your Boston Bruin news right here. So make sure to hit the sub button, give it a like if you did enjoy. But that's all I got. Thanks for watching. Hope you have a great day. See you later.